If they took recently retired NFL players and taught them to play rugby, they would beat any team in the world. In my opinion, this is a stretch. I don't think recently retired football players would have that much of an edge, and learning a new sport that late in their athletic career seems like a task that is a little bit too high for even world class athletes such as NFL players. However, I do think the USA could dominate rugby if we took a few steps that are in the same ballpark. One of those would be is if we identified NFL players that fit the physical profiles of what is good for rugby, so excluding some of the biggest linemen and some of the other players that wouldn't fit the rugby profile as well. And then we put them in a 5-year training camp to become professional rugby players instead of NFL players. I think this team wins the Rugby World Cup within 5 to 10 years. I think they are that elite of athletes, and while rugby and football are very much different sports, the fact of the matter is they are still very much related. They're basically cousins. It's kind of like how boxing and kickboxing are different sports, but we have seen crossovers from athletes of boxing to kickboxing and vice versa, and we've seen many of them be quite successful, and for good reason. They're cousin sports. This isn't ice hockey players going to play basketball. Those are apples to oranges. But another thing, and I actually think this is what the United States should do. The US needs to create a program for college football players that fail to get drafted into the NFL, but also top-rated high school players that miss out on college, and put them into rugby training programs to prepare them for professional rugby. And I think if we did this, once again, it's not like soccer in America, to where soccer is honestly a generational thing. We are improving, but it's kind of slow because we don't have that base for the sport of soccer. We have to generation by generation inch up a little bit more. Eventually, we will have a world elite soccer team, but it's a bit more future. But with rugby, if we took these steps and actually implemented it, this could be a near future thing, and we could take over rugby in the near future, not the distant future, because those football players have enough similar skill sets already. It's more fine tuning and just learning some of the differences and nuances to rugby, and all of a sudden they would be elite level rugby players.